Are you ready? Turn it up! Yeah! Welcome to the noise inside your head. No holding back, we live on the edge. Let's go!
And welcome back into another episode of Sage Against the Machine, the podcast for the working class that cuts through with blunt, honest voices. I'm your host, former U.S. Senate candidate Nathan Sage, and I'm joined alongside my friend and colleague, Dr. Bob Leonard, who is a retired radio journalist with bylines in the New York Times, Time, USA Today, and many more publications. He writes at Deep Midwest Politics and Culture on Substack. Dr. Bob Leonard, say hello.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming.
And today we are honored to have a great guest with us, someone I met on the campaign trail back in about a year and a half ago, maybe in Davenport, I believe. Taylor Wettach is a seventh generation Iowan attorney and a Democrat candidate for Iowa's Auditor of State. He's running to make sure taxpayer dollars are being spent responsibly, government is held accountable, and Iowans know exactly how their money is being spent and where it is going. Taylor Wettach, welcome to the Sage Against the Machine podcast.
That's right. Thanks a lot, guys. Really grateful to be here with you all. Man, Nathan, that feels like it was a lifetime ago at this point. I had a little bit less gray hair back then. My wife has pointed
Right?
it out to me frequently recently. So it's great to be here full circle and everything. And thanks for all you guys are doing.
Yeah, it was interesting. You know, when I first met you, I was like, "Who the hell is this guy?" And I know that's how almost everybody felt. That's how everybody felt when I first came on the scene. Was like, "Who the hell is this guy?"
Yeah,
And
out of the woodwork people.
then it's like we saw each other. We've seen each other speak many, many times. It seems like everywhere we went, we were around each
Right.
other. I know you got some great people on your staff as well. But I'm glad you're on here. I'm glad you're being a part of this. You know, uh, when I met you, you're running for House. I know you switched over and you're running for auditor. And the first thing I thought of, Taylor, when I knew you were running for auditor was like, Rob Sand's been doing that for 8 years, and it seems
Yep.
like everybody knows when you talk about auditor, you talk about Rob Sand, Rob Sand, Rob Sand. So my first question to you, when it comes to being running for auditor and doing this, is how do you you want to obviously you want Rob that support going to forward, but moving forward, say you get elected, what is the first thing that Taylor's going to do to make sure that Taylor puts his name on state auditor? What are the things that you have in your mind that need to be done in this state as auditor to make sure that you put your name on something and we get, taxpayers are making sure that they have an auditor that's actually working for them?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I appreciate the chance to go through all that. In my case, right, and my background. I was previously at one of the firms that got targeted by Trump. It was a real formative experience for me when they cut that deal, when the corruption that happened really reared its face right in front of me. Decided to quit, decided to get in the fight. This is something I think that is important for a number of reasons, right? I think people are focused on corruption because of the ethical need to be focused on corruption, but they're also focused on corruption because of the economic pain that it creates for people. And that's something that was really motivating for me. Right now, at a time like this, we're going through a situation where folks are really, really struggling. And when they're really, really struggling, the last thing they should have to worry about is whether their hard-earned taxpayer dollars are being stolen and wasted, misspent by corrupt politicians. People need more support, right? They need people that will push back against the efforts to take away the support that they deserve at a time when they're really struggling. So that was for me what was really motivating about this. I think Rob has done a phenomenal job in this office, and there's a lot that we want to build on there. Obviously, want to make sure that we are providing the support that local government needs in addition to state government. So one thing for me that I'm really focused on is expanding the support that we can provide to rural communities and smaller towns. One of the motivations that got me into being involved in all this in the first place was the sentiment that I saw in my community, the feeling that I had that we need to be spending more time out in our rural areas. And when it comes to Democrats, right, we need to be spending more time in the red areas. Just was I felt like we need to be more focused on that. It's how we win these races, but it's also the right thing to do within it. That's the So for me, a big focus is actually what can we do to expand that support early on. A lot of rural areas, small towns don't have the technology, don't have the know-how, don't have the foundations that are necessary to actually be able to do these audits in a way that is that's fully complete in the way that you might in, let's say, somewhere like Des Moines or Cedar Rapids. And so I think one thing I want to highlight there is that we talk a lot about the fraud, right, and the corruption. But it's not just that, right? It's people that are trying to do good, trying to look out for their communities. They just don't know how to do it, right? They don't have the background, they don't have the technology, all that sort of stuff. I want to provide a lot more support there. And then beyond that, some things I really want to work on are really focused more on making it more of to make sure the office is looking out for folks on a variety of economic issues. That comes down to, for example, you got situations where um, folks are engaging in wage theft or misclassification. They're working on public projects and they're doing that. Well, that's state money, right? So it seems to me like we should be able to look into that and dig into those sorts of problems. Situations where you got folks they're getting charged with fines because of unsafe, unfair labor practices, and we have some folks in government who may not be working to enforce that, may not be looking into those things, might not actually be trying to make sure that we are uh, giving bad actors their proper due. So, well, that's state money. It seems to me like we should look into that. And situations where you have big investors, for example, coming into our state, getting tax abatements and not keeping up their end of the bargain, right? Not hiring local workers, not making investments in the local community, taking from us, right? Getting a tax abatement and then not actually delivering. So I would say those are a couple of things. Rob has done a great job, but I'm really excited to build out on the focus on local matters and providing the support that people need and making sure that this office is looking out for folks economically at a time when people are really struggling.
One thing that I talk to a lot about, and now that you're doing a statewide race, I know that it's very important to you got to go everywhere, right? And you got to see everybody, and you got to talk to everybody. And I know you were doing that when you were running for now for auditor. So, and I know Rob Sand, right? He ran for the past 8 years. He's done the 100 town tour where he's gone and talked to every community, and he's been there and been seen, and he's asked those questions. How important is it for you to continue that legacy on about going out and seeing everybody? But then also, while you've been doing this, what are some unique things maybe that you've been hearing or people have been saying to you?
Yep. Yeah. 100% super, super important. As I, kind of allude to there. Um, if you're a Democrat running, first off, you're just not going to win. If you don't do that, if you don't earn everybody's vote, you're not going to win. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But the most important thing is you're not going to be doing things the right way. People need to know that we're not just part of some sort of strategic game where you say, well, this person's vote matters, or this is easier to get this person's vote, right? People can smell that, and that's part of the reason why they have a distrust in politics. So it's so important that we're doing that. And, what we've seen is that if you can do that, if you can get out there and talk to people, and I know that you saw this too in your work, people can look past, people don't focus on the brand name politics as much. They don't focus on, what is your official title in terms of kind of what your party is or even what you're running for at times, right? It's really more that they can see you as a person. I think
Mhm.
about how a few weeks ago when I was in Greene County, rural county, out for their fair there. Um, what I try to do is I just don't even lead with what I'm running for, what I am, right? In the context of this, I just go meet people and ask them, kind of what their thoughts are, what challenges they're facing. And I got about 5 minutes into the conversation with this guy, and we were talking about he does a lot of stuff with horses, and he was teaching me about all of it, and then we were talking more about the challenge we're facing. He was mentioning concerns about local government money, and then he asked me, hey, like, what do you do? Right? And I said, well, I'm a candidate for state auditor. He said, well, which party? And I said, well, I'm a Democrat, but running to represent everybody. He said, well, I've never voted for a Democrat before, but you're also the first Democrat that's come out here and talked with me. I've never seen a Democrat here, right, at a fair like this. And I don't see why I wouldn't vote for you. So, I think it's an anecdotal story, but it's reflective of, I think, the, overall importance of that and what we've been seeing when you get out there and talk to people. 100% important to continue that legacy and keep on pushing that, even when, obviously I'm running right now for office, but when we win, I want to keep that up and continue the trajectory that we built there and what Rob has been doing with getting out everywhere. In terms of what we're hearing, from folks, I gave you a little preview of kind of, some of the focal points of what we're looking at doing, and that reflects, I think, a lot of what we've been hearing. But I think a couple points just to flag in particular. Um, I think people, even though we often talk about this office in terms of the sort of um, you know, top-down issues, corruption in Des Moines, right? That sort of thing. I think for most people, what they're really focused on is the local. It's really
Hmm.
focused on that. It's saying, hey, we've had lots of problems out here. How do I get this information up to those at the top? How do I get the support that people need here to get that reviewed? Um, and those issues, they're not left or right issues. They're straight ahead sorts of issues. So I think, we're able to talk about things in that sort of way because the nature of the work itself is just fixing people's problems in a local
Hmm.
way. There really shouldn't be any debate about that. With that being said, another issue that I'd say that comes up a lot is in the school voucher program.
Hmm.
And that is one where we have had lots of conversation with folks, and when they're out in small towns or rural areas where a lot of the folks there don't have private schools anyway. And the way that it's felt to them is that money's being taken away to give to folks that are in an urban area that have private schools that are probably already going to send their kids to private schools. And so they're frustrated about that. We're not saying that people can't attend private schools. Certainly they can attend private schools, and we're not saying that there's anything we need to do to stop that. But, I think a lot of folks are really concerned with the way things are structured, how it's hurting public schools, and they're concerned that we aren't able to actually follow that money. And
Hmm.
that shouldn't also be a partisan thing. But to that point, what I'd say is that, I've felt when I've been out there talking to people that a lot of those folks that are concerned about what's going on with the voucher program and the lack of transparency there kind of come to me or come to Rob in part because they know that their representatives might not be actually advocating for them on the issue.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Taylor, what you said there right off the bat when you talked about going to the Greene County Fair and you talked about having a conversation with people, that to me is exactly what I've been talking about for a long time on the campaign trail. We got to stop talking about politics. Like we got to stop talking and leading with I'm a Democrat here to help you or whatever it is. We need to talk to people about everyday life. We got to
Right.
talk to people what they're going through because that's when you uncover the things that people are struggling with or the things that people are dealing with or the things that people are actually enjoying. You can have those conversations. So I love that you started off talking about that and then talking about the voucher program. I'm going to let Dr. Bob get into that because it's something me and Dr. Bob, if you don't know, we've been in radio for a while, and yeah, it was one of the things that we definitely talked about and covered while our time in radio. We were lied to a few times. So Dr. Bob, I know you got a million questions. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've got a lot of questions. I'll just say that I'm very happy that you used the word voucher,
Mm,
because that really irritates uh, people. It really irritates people that want to, paint the picture that they're education savings accounts. Call them education savings accounts.
mm,
They were
mm,
called vouchers, and the PR on vouchers wasn't very good, so they changed the name. They changed the name, to I don't know, just to change the narrative. But anyway, what the first thing that came to mind, and you're a low key kind of guy. I mean, you're smart, you're compassionate, you think about things. But one of the things that makes me think that you are a perfect candidate to be an auditor is you walked away from a lucrative corporate job in national security, working with the government, and then your company, the law firm you worked for, cut a deal with Trump. They bent the knee to Trump, and you turned away from that potentially very lucrative, fulfilling national security career because you have values. You stand by principles. And so when the company you worked for bent the knee to corruption, becoming part of the corruption, you said, I've had enough. And so I think that that shows what kind of person you are, that you have integrity, that you value, that you share the values that so many people in Iowa share. And what that shows me, what that illustrates to me, is that we can trust you. We can trust you. And so I think fantastic. And I know you mention it, it's on your website, you say it, but you just sort of say it like in this matter of fact way. There's what I did. And I say, you know, it was much more than that. It was an act of principle and courage. So thank you.
I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, I mean, for folks that may not be full aware of it, basically that, there was an effort by folks in government to prevent law firms from pushing back against efforts to hem in the rule of law and sort of a blackmail scheme, as it were. Extortion scheme is a better way to say it. Very mafia-like, going after some firms, basically saying, well, if you want to be able to not, you know, be prevented from doing your work in U.S. courts and things like that, well, you better go ahead and pay up. You better make a deal with us. And unfortunately, partners in my firm cut that deal, and it just kind of was the final straw, right, for me on things where, I thought I was going to be a lawyer doing good that way. I did a lot of good pro bono work that I was really proud of. Going into public service, I saw myself, to the extent I would go into government, being like a career attorney, just being a career public servant kind of person. Didn't expect I would be doing this, but just reached a point where it was like, enough, enough is enough. And so thank you. I appreciate you flagging that. We found that that helps resonate with people. And I think it reminds people that, you know, what you need for this office is somebody that has the ability to do the job. Obviously, if you can review financials like I can, that's great. If you can take legal action when you find problems, that's great. But I do think the most important qualification is for the anti-corruption watchdog in our state is, are you going to blink when there's problems? Are you going to do something about it? Are you going to be honest? And let me say one thing there too, right? Like I'm running as a Democrat, right? Position is basically a pretty nonpartisan position. But I'm obviously running to succeed Rob, and Rob is in the same party as me. When I got into this, I had a conversation with Rob, and I said, well, Rob, if you're governor, I'm going to have to audit your government. And he said, good. That's what you should do. You should do it to the full extent of the law, everything you can do there, right? I mean, that's how it should be, right? So that's the kind of leadership that I hope to bring to this, is be somebody that says, this is right, this is wrong, and here's what we need to do about it.
I stopped by the auditor's desk at the state fair the other day and talked to the staff that were there until, somebody, wanted to come up and talk with them, and then I got out of the way. But one of the things that Rob has done that I think is very good, he's receiving criticism for from the Republican Party about it, but allowing people to work and stay in their small towns and work for the office. And the people that were there were very nice and talked to me about it. And it lets them stay in their communities, help their communities grow. They're very happy. And so if you live, in rural Iowa, as you know, that giant sucking sound you hear is Des Moines sucking everything out of us. And so letting people stay in their smaller towns and contribute and be by their families and where they want to live and still work remotely and do the job and meet, and come to Des Moines for occasions. I think that's a very valuable thing. And the staff thought so too. Are you going to continue that?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. Yeah, I think it's a phenomenal way to approach things for a number of reasons, right? One, I think it does provide opportunities for us to get folks into this office who are very qualified, who might otherwise not have the chance to do it. Not everybody can uproot themselves and come to Des Moines and do all this, right? It provides a chance for us to get qualified people from all across the state at a time when, the number of CPAs is, that's actually an issue, is making sure we get qualified people for this office. So it's good for the office in that way. I think obviously, as you point out, it's good for the state in terms of actually making sure that folks can continue to invest in their communities. We need to make sure at a time like this, when the state's growth is really under threat, where rural areas in particular are under threat, that we invest and support our rural communities. So that's really important. But, I think to get back to the point that we were talking about earlier with local government concerns and understanding where people are, that is where it is a phenomenal tool, right? Previously, people would get out to these areas when they got sent out to those areas. And when did they get sent out to those areas? They got sent out there when they need to do an audit. When you have people that are already living in these communities, well, they know the issues, right? They can actually say, well, hang on a second. This something is looking fishy here. Something's coming down the pike that maybe we should look into, right? They understand these things. And they also know their neighbors, right? So they're better able to come in, I think, and actually bring that perspective, help people understand why the office is so important. They basically serve as permanent ambassadors for the nonpartisan work that the auditors in our state do. So I think it's a phenomenal way to approach things. It's great for the office, it's great for the state, and it's really good for the ability of the office to actually do its work in rural and small town communities.
Now, my turn to jump in here. Taylor, this is the Sage Against the Machine podcast. And you know me, you've seen me speak. You know I get very passionate. I can get very angry. I can get very intense. And I know that since I've seen you, you're very calm, cool, collected. You like to you don't get to that range of anger like I do. Um, but I know that things piss you off. I know you're upset. I know that there's things that you're seeing and you're speaking to people that just get you flustered, that's why you're doing what you're doing. That's why public
Yeah.
service is so
Yeah.
important to you. Here's your chance. I want to give this to you as to what exactly what are the things that you see in the auditor's office? And I know there's a handful of things out there that are just that Iowans are even getting pissed off of. Like you can look at, taking Rob's power away and on all these
Yeah.
different aspects. What are the things that get you fired up that keep you up at night and go, this is why I'm here. This is
Right.
why we need to do this.
Yeah, yeah, I appreciate that. Well, I'll put aside my literally prosecutorial aspect there and tell you why this is so important, right? I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. What has happened in this office is that for perpetuity, the office has effectively had the powers, right, that it's had to do its job. And somebody said, hang on a second. They're finding the corruption that's going on in our state. They're going to be able to catch us. We don't want them to do that. So what are we going to do? We're going to change the law. We're going to make it more difficult for this office to be able to do the work that it's supposed to do. And by the way, it's nonpartisan work, really, right? I mean, what's controversial about protecting people's money, right? What's so controversial about that? But they didn't want them doing it. You mentioned talking with the folks in that office. I've had a number of conversations with people working there. And we're talking about not Rob, right? We're talking about the career public servants that work there that, by the way, can make a lot more money in the private sector, but choose to do this work because they believe it's important to have somebody that will look out against financial corruption in our state. And they will tell you that the worst thing that's happened to that office and its ability to look out for people in our state and in our communities is that they took the powers away in 2023. Make it more difficult for the office to get the information that it needs to find the corruption, to prosecute the corruption, to actually look into these sorts of issues. And what is the natural result of that? More corruption. The natural result of taking away the watchdog's power to do its work is that inevitably you're going to get more corruption. And that feeds up further and further. It feeds into obviously the kind of legal corruption that we see, but it feeds into economic corruption, right? It's the sorts of stuff where you feed into a system that those at the very top can continue to disadvantage those that are really everybody else in our state because they're not being watched. Well, I think enough is enough, and we need a watchdog in there that will fight the fight. And I'm excited, especially because we get Rob in there and me in there, right? Rob has basically been on defense for the past 3.5 years, right? But you get Rob and me in there, we can actually look into the corruption that's taking place in our state in a more full-throated sort of way.
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. Bob, I know we're running short on time here with Taylor. Any last questions you got for him?
The PI program I
Yep.
thought was very successful. And I watched Rob do this, and I think you alluded to it at the beginning. The PI program is very good, but also what I liked was several, cities, towns, small towns,
Yeah.
sometimes very small towns,
Right.
were audited and there was errors found. And what Rob did, I thought was very good, is he just worked with them. There was no punishment. There was no criminal allegations. There wasn't anything criminal going on. It was staffers that didn't, if they're small towns with small staffs, they can't afford the expertise. And so somebody that's willing to do the work does the work, and sometimes mistakes are made. Rob just, he was more about education
Hmm.
on how to do things right. And so I hope you're going to continue that.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And that's where I say, like, you know, we just talked about corruption for a bit there, and I kind of went off on that. But, like at the end of the day, most of the work is making sure that local government processes are done the right way and that the money is protected. It's kind of prosaic. If you're doing it right, it should be kind of, kind of middle of the road, right? It shouldn't be super creative or anything like that, right? It's basically making sure things are done the right way. And I do believe that most people want to do things the right way. I believe that most people want to have a community where we look after each other, where they know they can trust their neighbor, where they want to know that they can continue to stay in their towns and not feel the pressure to move away. I think most people are living life like that. And so, again, I think that when we're talking about our rural areas and our small towns, it's really more about providing the help that they need and recognizing that they are at a disadvantage compared to your Iowa cities, your Des Moines, your Cedar Rapids. They have to still do an audit, for a town, but they don't necessarily have the sort of vantage point that one would have if you're in a different position. So, I think a lot of times we talk about kind of auditing as if it's a sort of whack-a-mole game because you're catching people on the back end. But one thing I really want to focus on, and I think everybody can get behind, is providing more and more investment on the front end. I always think about it like this. If you get primary care, right? It's going to be better for you. You're going to be healthier quicker. It's going to be cheaper, right? That's all great. As compared to finding out on the back end that you have cancer, you have to go get specialist treatment. Your insurance might be trying to screw you over. All these sorts of things like this. If we can provide the support on the front end that these communities need, then it's going to be a lot better for everybody else down the road than if we keep on playing whack-a-mole and trying to catch things on the back end.
Taylor, we get let people on here. We let them tell people who they are and what they're doing. I want to give you a few minutes to tell people that are listening to the Sage Against Machine podcast why it's important we get you elected as state auditor. Go ahead.
Yeah, appreciate it. Well, thanks again, guys, for the chance to be here. Big fans of you guys. It's always great to hang out with you all. Um, I'm fighting this fight because it's not more important than ever has been today at this point. I mean, this is a situation now where um, corruption is rampant in our country, it's rampant in our state, and folks are really struggling. And it seems to me at a time like this, when folks are in this sort of way, the last thing they should have to worry about is corruption going unchecked. There are folks out there that have actively tried to prevent this office from being able to do its job, from being able to do the job that has been done for a long time by Democrats, but done by Republicans. And at a time like this, we need people that will fight back. We need people that will call a spade, that will do things the right way. I have the know-how to do that from my background in the law and in dealing with financial issues. But most of all, I bring a commitment to doing things the right way in this office. Call a spade, go after the problems, fix the problems, treat people with dignity. I think that's what people are looking for, and I think right now that's what we need in our leaders, and hoping to live up to that sort of commitment to make sure we have a state auditor that will fight for all Iowans for through this election, and obviously doing a lot of good work after November.
Taylor Wettach, candidate for state auditor of Iowa. The last thing I know Dr. Bob will always ask, and I'm going to ask it right now, is how do we help you? Tell people the website, how do we donate? How do we get signs? How do we help Taylor Wettach become our next auditor?
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. You can find us online at Wettach for Iowa. You can donate there if you can chip in. I'd appreciate it. We're running a big statewide race on a little bit less of a budget than a congressional or a federal candidate or a governor candidate, congressional senator governor candidate. So grateful for that. Spread the news online on all social media. Like things, share things. That really, really helps. You get a sign. Usually, your local county committee, Democratic county committees, will have signs for us. We have luckily had them going pretty quick. So if you don't got them now, we'll get them back out to folks soon. But really, this is the moment, right? We got the best chance we're going to have in 10 years to get things back on track and have a government that's actually looking out for people in the state. So just grateful for folks paying attention and cheering us on.
Dr. Bob, any last questions?
No, thanks a lot. Good luck.
There-
Keep working hard. You've been working
Yep,
real hard.
we will
Appreciate
not
that.
be outworked. We're going to earn every vote. So thanks, guys, for all you're doing. Thanks for getting the word out and supporting our work to get clean government in our state again.
There we go. Taylor Wettach, candidate for state auditor. Thank you, Taylor, for joining us.
Yes,
Thanks,
thank you.
guys.
And thanks again to Taylor Wettach, state auditor candidate in Iowa, for joining us on the Sage Against Machine podcast. Always great to see Taylor. Like I said, Dr. Bob, I've seen that guy everywhere. Met him back in Davenport a while ago, over a year and a half ago. I love his team, his staff. I know he has a lot of great people on his staff. So excited to hopefully get him elected as our next state auditor, because we got to keep doing what we can, like he said, to get rid of the corruption we have in our government, especially here in Iowa. But moving now to our national headlines, and I wanted to get to this one because I just feel like this is just another instance, Dr. Bob, of people waking up going, "What? Like, are we serious?" That's how I felt when I read this. Trump cuts back exercises in South Korea, says Kim Jong-un treats him with great respect. President Donald Trump said Monday that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un treats him with great respect a day after ordering the Pentagon to scale back annual joint military exercises with South Korea, which he criticized for not joining the U.S. war in Iran. It raises a bigger question about whether U.S. foreign policy is being driven by long-term alliances and national security, or by Trump's personal relationships and frustration with countries that don't follow his lead. South Korea is a longtime ally while North Korea remains a nuclear-armed adversary. Trump is essentially putting pressure on the ally while signaling openness with a dictator. What are your first thoughts, Dr. Bob?
Well, my first thoughts was he signaled, you know, to North Korea that we don't have the commitment we've always had. He signaled that we're weaker than ever. He pulled the last carrier out of the Pacific. He's giving, China an opening to attack Taiwan. We already know how our missiles have been depleted, or every aspect of our military has been compromised by Trump not being able to, by him starting the war in Iran that he didn't need to. We've lost, um, you know, our munitions are, getting close to depletion, and he's retreating. So to me, that was just an open invitation for China and North Korea to do whatever they want to do. I just thought it was ridiculous. He could have said, you know, we're doing well in Iran. It's going to take some time, but we will not abandon the Pacific, and we will not abandon our friends in South Korea and Taiwan and Australia. I mean, Australia should be concerned as well. I mean, it was an open display, an admission of how weak we are, and I just
Absolutely.
thought it was ridiculous. He should have been
Absolutely.
strong. Should have stood strong on the Pacific. He should have, at least acted like we were strong and working. Things were working out in Iran, which is going to do no matter what, even though it's not. He doesn't know how to get out of that situation, and so it's an international disaster.
It's scary. Do you want to know why it's scary to me and scary in general? Because for a few reasons. First, it's scary because it shows everyone, and we've known this, but it shows everyone all you have to do is kiss his ass and you'll get what you want. That's it. You just kiss his ass and literally show him great respect, kiss his ass, and you'll get what you want. You want like, and then here the thing that's bothering me is I saw this yesterday is South Korea has been providing Russia with weapons to fight Ukraine. They've been helping, and we're sitting here
North
helping
Korea.
Ukraine. So, I mean, yeah, sorry, North Korea. So North Korea has been helping Russia with munitions to help to fight Ukraine, while we have been helping Ukraine. And so it's like it's counterintuitive. It's completely idiotic. And then on top of it, how many service members are in harm's way in South Korea, in Japan, and all of that, the South Pacific? Like, how many people from the United States are in harm's way, and all he had to do was show you great respect, and you're just like, yeah, yep, we're done with helping South Korea. Like that doesn't make any fucking sense. Everybody across the world, everybody across America understands that doesn't make any fucking sense, but they're going to spin it in a way that these mega people are going to think that it's a good thing, and it doesn't make. I don't even know what to say about it because it's literally I've never imagined in our history of the world our president would just bow down and say, "Yeah, he's a great guy, a dictator who's murdered people just for having internet or just for speaking out against him." Like he's like, yeah, he's great respect to that guy. Like it doesn't make any sense, Dr. Bob. I don't even know how I feel. I'm just in my mind like this, like so I feel like I'm so many fucking Americans across the country right now going like, what the fuck? What?
It
Like I
makes
understand.
perfect.
Well, no, I understand I understand trying to make peace. Like I get that. I understand but it's like this guy has been like when you look at the people across the globe, the main characters across the globe that have like looked at America as said death to America and we're going to blow up America and all these threats against America. Kim Jong Un is like number one. Like he's up there, and now it's all of a sudden he showed our leader great respect, so fuck everybody else. Like what the fuck is going on?
It makes perfect sense in Trump's brain because he wants the kind of
Because he's
power.
an idiot. Yeah, because he's
You
an
know,
idiot. Yeah,
well, he envies Putin. He envies, Kim Jong Un. He
yeah.
envies those guys. He wants to have that kind of power. And so that's
It's
it's
embarrassing.
psychotic. Yeah, well, it's embarrassing too. It's very
That's
embarrassing.
I just couldn't imagine like my little brother was stationed in Okinawa for a long time. I couldn't imagine like how my mom would feel or how service members' families across America feel right now, knowing that they have kids. Not just the Iran war, you have that in, people being deployed, but you have now service members who are just living on the base they were stationed at, not even in deployment zones. Now you're like, okay, you just made this situation more I say worse than it needed to be. It's like throwing a little bit of fuel on the fire, but not lighting the match yet. That's what it feels like. And it's like, what the fuck are we doing? And it just goes back to, hey, hey, every country across the world, you want to murder people, you want to enslave people, you want to take their money and be corrupt and and you want to destroy every aspect of individualism. All you got to do is kiss Donald Trump's ass, and he'll let you do it. And that is the problem that it blows my mind. And the enablers in our Congress and our Senate that are allowing this to continue on is just blows my mind. And I know I'm beating a dead horse by talking about it, but it's just another instance of like waking up going, what the fuck are we doing? So wanted
I
to have
think
that
we
on here.
I think we
Yep.
have like 30,000 troops in South Korea and then support personnel. So to put a number to what you were talking about.
Oh, absolutely. And I know I've met a lot of people who are stationed in over there, and I know that what they've had to go through when they've had, threats against them before. I could only imagine them their thinking going forward, but it is what it is. Clearly, Donald Trump, our president, doesn't care about our troops because if he did, he wouldn't be putting them in that situation. Speaking of our troops, speaking of idiots. Let's go to our Iowa political headlines. U.S. Defense Secretary crybaby Pete Hegseth joins Representative Zach Nunn at the Iowa State Fair. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth spoke Monday at Representative Zach Nunn's Iowa State Fair fundraiser, honoring the Iowa soldiers killed in the Iran conflict, while arguing that the war was necessary to prevent Iran from developing a nuclear weapon. He also defended the Trump administration changes at the Pentagon, including its anti-DEI policies, and used a derogatory slur towards transgender people while describing the department's approach of military readiness. Here's what I gotta say about that. Fuck you, Pete Hegseth. You're a fucking whiny piece of shit, and you shouldn't be in the position you're in, and you're an alcoholic and an abuser and just a piece of crap. It doesn't surprise me. It's interesting that you're honoring people like the blood that's on your hands is those people you're trying to honor because you're the one that, along with Donald Trump, caused this Iran conflict. Yes. Do I think that things needed to be done or things could have been done? Absolutely. But do I think they should have been done in a different manner? And didn't you also blow up Iran into oblivion, to their nuclear capabilities to oblivion? But now all of a sudden we're in a war with them, and it has gone on a lot longer than everybody thought. And now we're getting low on munitions because you and Donald Trump care more about ego and care more about being alpha male posturing than you do actually thinking things out logically and intelligently. And now you're coming to Iowa to help raise money for Zach Nunn, who likes to abuse people that are asking him questions and can't be held accountable. Like, where do I begin with this, Dr. Bob? I think it's insane that this guy came to Iowa to help Representative Zach Nunn. To me, I think it honestly bodes better for the Democrats in this situation. I think at the end of the day, you got this pompous ass who's come here talking, saying the things he's saying. That's the thing, Dr. Bob. I feel like this situation is something that is like we've seen over and over with this administration, the doubling down of being a cocksucker, the doubling down of being an asshole, the doubling down of being a dickwad. Like, and I know I'm cussing up a storm, but that's what we've seen out of Trump, and I truly believe, I hope to, that Iowans see it for what it is, and it ends bad for these people. I feel like that doubling down of this and the Iran war, which we're talking about affordability all the time and the issues that we're causing, like nobody wants this. We didn't want for like they ran on not continuing on with forever wars, and now here we are again. So I think that this isn't something that's going to bode well for them. If anything, it's going to be do damage to them. That's my thought. What are your thoughts, Dr. Bob?
Well, I think that how can you be in that position where troops' lives are on the line as you're speaking and you're at the Iowa State Fair looking at fishing lures? I mean,
Hmm.
Trump's golfing, golfing a lot, costing us millions of dollars. He doesn't care. All he cares about is his ballroom. And apparently, the fishing lures at the Iowa State Fair are more important to Pete Hegseth. And I think, I think it shows what kind of person Zach Nunn is too. I mean, he hasn't shown, you know, that that he really has anything to offer on this issue. He's fully supportive of the war, and it's just sad. And
It
also
is, and I'm
pathetic.
glad you said that. I'm so glad you said that because that's like think about this. This man, Pete Hegseth, is, you know, in a position where he can do a lot of damage across this world. He is this alpha male character that he wants to be. He's on the war.gov or whatever it is commercials. Like he's getting all this, and right now we're fighting a war with Iran. We have our troops, we're dealing with Ukraine, we're having all these issues. And you want to come to the Iowa State Fair and talk shit about trans people that are minding their own fucking business. Like how small of a person. Like, and I get it. I get it. Like you don't like policies, you don't like something or whatever, but you're attacking and using a slur to go after trans people is like talk about like shooting fish in a barrel. Like talk about like these like what are why? Like, what did you get out of that? Does it get like I always like? There's a line, and I'm going to say this. There's a line in The Office where Dwight says to Andy, he's whispering in his ear when he was talking to a girl, and he's like, and I think a little blood rushed into your penis, like saying he got a little excited because he was talking to this girl. Dr. Bob, without a doubt, Pete Hegseth, that's why he says what he says, because he gets off on it. He gets off on tearing other people down because his own insecurities are so much that he has to point out everybody else's fault instead of his own. And it's just like this bullying mentality bullshit that just makes me want to choke the man until he can't breathe. Like it's so fucking stupid. Like it's so idiotic that we have to have these conversations about this guy coming to Iowa, anti-DEI policies. Most of the people that don't even know what DEI actually is, they just want to. Oh, it's an acronym. We got to destroy it. Anytime there's some sort of acronym, we gotta go after it. And now we're going after people, and it's like these transgender people that like. How many people in the Iowa State Fair that were there were probably transgender? Not a handful of people. Like, what is the point of that? and it blows my mind. Like again, with the first headline, Dr. Bob, about Trump, and it's another instance of like, what the fuck are we doing? What are we doing? We have more problems in this country than transgender people, period. Like we have more problems than DEI. We have more problems than all of this. And it's like if anything, you're creating more problems than you are fixing the fucking problems. And that is why I hope people start waking up. People start seeing like, hey, clearly they care more about this pettiness than they do about what's good for our country. And it's
You
just
know,
uh,
there's something else that I want to say is that you and I've known a lot of tough guys,
yes.
especially you. I mean, I was a wrestler in college and I know a lot of tough guys. You know a lot of tough guys. Most of us know tough guys. Tough guys don't have to act like they're tough. Tough guys that are really tough don't act like Pete Hegseth. And so that makes me think Pete Hegseth really isn't very tough.
At all. At all.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. Like I think his thought process is to surround himself with as many tough people as possible. So he just kind of blends into that crowd so he can say he's one when that's why he wanted to do the generals and have him speak in front of the generals like he did so he could stand up in front of him and make it look just have pictures showing he's a tough guy because clearly he needs to compensate something. I feel bad for his wife, but either way, I just think that we need to as a country stop this bullshit. And I don't know, when do we as people in America stop bullying people, right? And I've had conversations with my own family and friends about, transgender things. And the one thing that I always say every single time, which gets them to they're not used to, is just going like, yeah, I understand what you're seeing on TV and what you're hearing from people like Pete Hegseth, but how does it affect you? How do these people playing a sport or how do these people living their lives? How does that affect you? You probably met maybe one or two in your entire life, your entire existence, and you're getting this angry because other people are telling you to be angry. Don't be angry because somebody else is telling you to be angry. Be angry because you're angry. And these people shouldn't be making you angry because they don't affect you. They don't affect your life. They're just trying to live their own. They're just trying to live. And it's just like we keep doing this bullshit and we keep making it into a bigger thing than it needs to be. And it's just, I'm so fucking tired of hearing it. So, yeah, fuck Pete Hegseth, fuck Zach Nunn. And that gets me right into why Nathan is cussing. Okay. Obviously, I've already been cussing up a storm, but my reason why Nathan's cussing today, and I'll go on this, and Dr. Bob, you're going to have a little talk on this as well. But Turning Point USA activists followed and taunted gubernatorial candidate Rob Sand at the Iowa State Fair this past week. Rob Sand publicly addressed the confrontation and urged his supporters not to respond in kind. There are also allegations circulating that some of the people presenting themselves as ordinary Iowans were actually paid out of state political operatives. And that's what we saw. I know I saw Liz from Iowa posted one about a kid that was there screaming he's from Wisconsin. Some other person that was allegedly not from Iowa. And that's my thing. I've seen these same people when Ruben Gallego was in Des Moines. We went to that event just to listen to Ruben speak. They were there talking about his text messages. Anybody who they think is potentially going to run for president one day. I know, like you're going to talk about Mark Kelly. That's who they're going after, and it's crazy to me that we have people doing this in the state when we have Zach Nunn who just punched a phone away from somebody for questions, but they're okay. Remember, he said it was a bipartisan dirty games, like, but they're okay with this. Zach Dunn still has his tracker out doing all this shit. And then, these people, they can't even be from Iowa, and they're saying, Iowans don't want this and Iowans don't want. How the fuck do you know when you're not from Iowa? And then they said the same people that say that, Democrats pay protesters to go out there. I've been to a lot of protests, Dr. Bob. You've been to a lot more than me, and I know that No one's fucking getting paid. We're just all pissed the fuck off. And so the audacity to hire people to come to Iowa to fucking do this shit and act this way is a complete and utter. It's hypocritical for one from Zach Nunn, and it's just a slap in the face for so many Iowans because they're telling you one thing and then showing you another. And they think again Iowans are too fucking stupid to understand what they're doing. When in reality, Iowans aren't that stupid. And I hope it turns out bad for everybody at the ballot box that they understand that this is not okay to be paying people to come from out of state to do this because they can say Democrats do that all they want, but it doesn't happen. Show me the proof that it happened here in Iowa. And so I want these people, these you know what it feels like, Dr. Bob? It feels like Turning Point USA is just trying to hold on to any little bit of relevance ever since the issue with what happened with Charlie Kirk, which is a horrible thing that happened to Charlie Kirk, and I wish on anybody. But I think that's what it is Turning Point is trying to hang on to any sort of relevance they can and do whatever they can to get to stay in that spotlight that Charlie Kirk gave them. And now we have our own politicians hiring these people to be assholes at the state fair. And it's insane. And if Democrats did it, we would never hear the end of it. But here we are watching it happen and nobody's saying anything. So that's my take on it. I'm a little fucking pissed off. I'm not that angry because it doesn't surprise me as much as the slapping the phone from Zach Nunn, but it's again another showcase of how they will say one thing and do another. Now, Dr. Bob, now it's your turn.
I don't think we have any evidence that candidates are paying for these people to come and protest. I think Turning Point USA is probably acting on their own,
Yeah.
and they get enough donations, but we could see, denunciation of it. But anyway, I was in the agriculture building when Mark Kelly and Josh Turek came through, and I stood there and I got a brief interview with Kelly, and it was, and asked him why he was supporting Josh Turek. But as Kelly was speaking with other people, a little boy came up next to me, maybe 8 years old, and just looked at Kelly with, like little boys and girls are supposed to look up at heroes. And I'd already talked with the press person, and I said, "Do you want to talk to?" I asked the little boy, "Do you want to talk to him?" And he was just really excited. "Yeah, I would like to." And so I just mentioned it to the press person. The press person smiled and said, "Of course." And so Mark Kelly came over and started speaking to the boy. And another boy came up, and they just had this grand conversation. They spoke to an astronaut. He said, "Yeah, oh, I want to speak to him. He's an astronaut." And so it was this beautiful, beautiful moment where um, you know, kids were looking up to an astronaut, a combat pilot, an American hero. And it was just a joyous moment. A couple minutes later, as Kelly left, the Turning Point people were there,
Hmm.
haranguing him, berating him, saying, "We don't want you here in Iowa." They had the pre-printed signs. It was,
Hmm.
and they were just, I hope people have seen the contrived rage that these out-of-state paid protesters had. And I kept saying, "You're booing an American hero. You're booing an American hero." I kept telling these people that. And they just looked at me, and like one looked at me like, "I am?" They were booing. Turning Point USA are booing American heroes while they're worshiping their false god, the draft dodging con man, Donald Trump. I never would have ever thought in my lifetime that I would see such a thing. And it's shameful.
Yeah, it's the same way I think about how they treated John McCain and how they talked about John McCain.
Mhm.
Same exact way. Actually, I'll tell you a story real quick, Dr. Bob. When I was in Kansas, I got into a verbal argument with a woman who kept trying to tell me that John McCain was not a hero. And it was because they had digested these fucking talking points. They don't there's no critical thinking skills there. And then these people are the same people that call other people sheep. And it's like, dude, like take a step back. That's what I want everybody to do. Like just take a step back with from this artificial anger. Take a step back and just look at what Mark Kelly has done. Look what his wife's gone through. Look at all of the issues there instead of just jumping on what one thing or two things here and there. And it's just like, again, it goes back to these people saying Iowa doesn't want you. How the fuck do you know you're not from Iowa? So I don't know. It's disgusting. It's horrible. And I hope more and more people see it for what it actually is so we can get Rob Sand elected, so we can get Sarah Trone Gary elected, so we don't have Pete Hegseth coming here anymore, so we can get, Lindsey James elected, Josh Turek, Christina Bohannon, Taylor Wettach, who we had on here, all these people that are trying to do good for their fellow man, that are trying to do good for Iowans, that are trying to do good for this country, need to be elected more than anything, because clearly the petty games, the insanity that is this administration needs to stop, else we're never going to get anywhere as it feels like. I like to think of it as a cancer on this country right now. The cancer's going on. It's infecting every corner of our country, and the only way we can do it is by electing Democrats, or call them chemotherapy, and use the treatment we need to get rid of the cancer that we have in this country, so we can have clear thoughts, clear lives, and actual opportunities for people, and not just for the insanely rich or the people that are okay with bullying people just because they're different than them. And I don't know what else to say. I just honestly, you said it's the whole thing is like why Nathan's cussing, but it's the same. Why is Nathan sad? Because this is so fucking pathetic. It's so pathetic that we live in a country right now where people can't even go to the Iowa State Fair and enjoy themselves without some sort of political operative theater because they're being paid to just be assholes. And it's sad. It's really sad. Now, I know Democrats will ask tough questions. Democrats will, Zach Nuns wants to slap their phones out of their hands. But we don't fucking do the amount of crazy shit. And people that's an element where people will argue all day long. We all know that it's not that way. And we know that there's people in this country that just want to live their lives. So the people that are running for office, they just want to serve their fellow man. And hopefully we can do that and get rid of this political theater bullshit that we're continuing to see every day with Donald Trump, with Pete Hegseth, with Zach Nunn, and everything. And I think that's all I got left to say about this one. I just feel incredibly sad right now that we live in a world where this is okay. Anything else, Dr. Bob, before we end this episode of Sage Against Machine?
Nope. Just do what you can, donate, volunteer, anything that, fits your interests, your expertise. If you don't have a nickel, you can still make some phone calls. You can still knock some doors. If you can't do that, there's something that you can do. Contact your local county Democratic Party, and they'll find something for you to do. So we can all be part of the effort. So every single one of us can help bring about the change that our nation needs.
Absolutely, you said it great. If you really care about this country and want to see this country move forward and with everybody together and get rid of this divide, then do what you can. And I know if you feel the same way we feel, and it's hard to get out, it's hard to do things. There's always something. You can send an email. You could write a letter. You know how many letters I got as a candidate? Go ahead and do that. Send that stuff out there. Do what you possibly can, because it's going to take all of us. And like I said last week, 82 days. I think we're down to 77 days. Time is ticking. We are very close to this being down to the election, and we need to make sure that we are not surprised when election day happens. We need to fight for what we believe in, and that takes all of us. So like Dr. Bob said, do what you can. If you can donate, please donate. If you can knock doors, call, write letters, do what you can, do what you're comfortable with. Anything will help us, will help people get elected and fix this country for what it is. But with that being said, that's going to do it for this episode of the Sage Against Machine podcast. Check us out on Thursday. We have Christina Bohannon going to be joining us on the Sage Against Machine podcast. That's going to be an interesting conversation with Christina. But either way, excited to have her on. Until next week. Oh, sorry. Until Thursday, you're just going to have to try to catch me on the flippity flip.